How's it going, everybody? My name is Cam White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for July 27th through August 2nd of the year of the Lord 2020. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. So there's no announcements for this week. I don't have anything to say, except for the fact that these next 2 weeks are kind of like the ball's going to start rolling. Shit's going to start happening. This is where things kind of ramp up again. If you guys watched my year ahead horoscope, which was kind of challenging because with other astrologers, we knew a bunch of shit was going to go down, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to fathom that there was going to be a virus that would actually full on stop the whole Earth. That's a pretty far out there prediction, but something that I said in my year ahead horoscopes that I remember and that also I think is really going to start applying now. Well, it already did kind of apply. Was January in that first quarter was a lot of 2019. And then that second quarter of 2020, it was kind of a distractionary period. It was kind of just shit was going on, right? As we get into this third quarter that we're now in this fourth quarter, which is really just highlighted with the Mars retrograde. This is where, again, the ball starts rolling, shit starts happening, and it all kind of starts last week technically with Mars entering shadow, but that was I think last Friday I think it was last Friday. This past Friday, I should say. So since then, Mars starts to go, Mars is now in shadow, and with the shit that we've got going on this week and the shit that we've got going on next week, it all kind of accumulates to, I don't want to say accumulates, this is kind of the beginning, right? It's kind of when you watch a movie and the ending sets up the beginning of the next movie, this is kind of that moment. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. There's a lot to talk about this week and next week. Let's go ahead and switch back over here. How do you guys like the space background? This is new. I couldn't think of a color scheme, so let me know if you guys like this. And if you can see this too, because I was able to see it, but I know a lot of you guys, this might visually mess you up. So just let me know, and I'll change it to something that's easier to read. But anyway, we start this Monday off with the moon entering Scorpio not immediately, but it'll eventually make an opposition to Uranus. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to zoom out there. I kind of wanted to talk about this first real quick, just because this is going to be, I have this for about 2 p.m., so this is later on in Monday. But as the moon enters Scorpio, right, and basically the first thing it does is going to be making an opposition to Uranus, which won't be until about 2 p.m. But the reason I really wanted to talk about this is just because, I feel with the moon in the sensitive place of Scorpio, making an opposition to the very volatile planet of Uranus, it's going to be feeling like you're walking on eggshells on Monday. It's going to feel there's also this heaviness. It's the moon in Scorpio, right? It's kind of having emotional baggage that you just can't seem to let go of. I make Hoarders analogies all the time in my videos. I don't know why I love making analogies to the show Hoarders, but the moon in Scorpio is so that part of every episode of Hoarders where they give the hoarder person their own little box to go through themselves so that they feel good. That's the moon in Scorpio. You have this, they're here's this box, get what can you go through to get rid of, and the person takes stuff out and they go, well, I got to keep this, well, I got to keep this too, and I got to keep this, and it's okay, well, you didn't get rid of anything, so that's not gonna work. The moon in Scorpio kind of has that same vibe of what does need to be let go of. What are you subconsciously holding on to? What are you so emotionally attached to? And when you have those emotional attachments, it's kind of a sensitive area. When you watch Hoarders, one of the things that you really see with it is just how much of an emotional attachment, a psychological attachment people have to their belongings, right? It's not they just go oh, okay, throw away all my shit, no big deal. It's a process. It's, a lot of it has to do with mental health. A lot of it has to do with just kind of all of the factors of, living in society in the 21st century. But it's not easy to let go of your shit, right? This isn't just their bullshit that we as, consumers of TV see it as. They're oh, this is just a bunch of bullshit they're all hoarding. These are very personal items that, mean something to them. They're significant to them. And I think with the moon in Scorpio, it's easy to get to have this emotional significance with shit that's otherwise bullshit, right? Like everyone's like, dude, you got to get rid of this shit. But you're like, no, it means something to me. And so while the moon's in Scorpio, you know, like I said, it's going to feel like walking on eggshells. You're going to feel like hypersensitive, and it is going to be making that opposition to Uranus. So I think it's going to be important to, you know, like there's a lot of volatility, right? Like if you know there's a lot of volatility, you know someone's on edge, don't provoke them. Don't bring up sensitive shit, right? Don't, you know, throw shit at them. Like it's just a very volatile, sensitive day on Monday. And it's also double true. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a doubly true with Mercury squaring Mars all day on Monday. And if we pull up the chart here, look at this. Moon's going to be making that exact opposition to Mars right when Mercury is literally coming up to the exact square with, Moon is going to make an exact opposition to Uranus. Literally the same hour Mercury is squaring Mars exactly. And if you watch my live stream about July, you know how I talked about this Mercury square Mars. Like, this is rough. This is definitely, like, you know, not a fun conversation to have. And so as the moon is, you know, opposite Uranus now, also with Mercury squaring Mars, this is kind of like you're going to end up running into a harsh conversation. There is going to be some type of frustration somewhere, right? Like, you can't just avoid this shit. I mean, if you're, this wouldn't be, I would say this would maybe be a good day to pick a fight, but if you're not trying to experience explosiveness and emotional volatility and general fighting and conflicts with like verbal conflicts, if you're trying to avoid all of that stuff, this would be a great day to try to avoid it. But it's just, you know, this is astrology. This isn't just stuff like, you know, you can't just sit in your house all day long. Well, I mean, I don't even want to go down that road. Anyway, what I'm trying to fucking say here is with Mercury also squaring Mars, right? Mercury's in Cancer. There's this bigger shift and focus on like what is necessary, what do I need, how do I actually feel about this shit. We're all really sensitive crybabies right now, and it's squaring Mars. We're cranky, and the moon's in Scorpio. We're hungry. Like honestly, Monday we're just gonna be big cranky babies, and it's okay to be a cranky baby sometimes. It happens, you know what I mean? You can't always control it. I think just the best thing though is that if you know you're gonna be a cranky baby, maybe, you know, give people that you're working with a heads up that you're kind of cranky that day. And, you know, if you react on them, maybe it won't be such a big deal. But also on Monday, while we're being cranky babies, is Venus is going to be squaring Neptune while Neptune is sextiling Jupiter. And this is where it gets fun / weird, because, you know, we've got this cranky baby energy of Moon and Scorpio opposite Uranus, Moon and Scorpio opposite Uranus, Mercury squaring Mars. But at the same time, Venus is squaring Neptune, which has been kind of, I mean, fuck, dude. Venus has been Gemini for how fucking long now? The last time Venus was square Neptune was around the second week of May. So what was going on that first or second week of May that was confusing, that was, you know, diluting things or dissolving things for you? Venus squaring Neptune is like, you know, maybe a harsh reality or value. Again, like what I said with the Venus retrograde, like there's a value shift inherent with Venus retrogrades. With Venus in Gemini, it has to deal with the stimulation. And I think as as things come full circle now, with Venus back at this degree, what have we learned? Wow. I haven't heard a firework like in a while. I can't believe there was another firework right now. I just need you guys to think that's funny. I can't believe that. Anyway, what have we learned since then? And also, I think the big thing too is what have we learned that was like, did we get into something that was like, oh, we think that this is amazing and great, only for it to be like super Neptune and be like, okay, this actually was kind of whack? Or did you get into something new that actually opened up a new side of you? I think as Venus squares Neptune, there's a lot of questions to ask. This isn't necessarily a right or a wrong test, but it is a test, if that kind of makes sense. Like, what are you paying attention? What are you paying attention to? What are you, what's stimulating you? And Venus squaring Neptune, you know, a lot of the shit that you thought might have been stimulating you, you know, like, I mean, I took this Venus retrograde as an opportunity to kind of like relinquish the shit that I thought was stimulating me. And I kind of changed a lot of my habits. That's Venus ruling my 6th house though. But with Venus squaring Neptune, you know, what were you under the guise under originally, and did you release anything? Did you get rid of anything? I just think there's a really big there's a really big opportunity to take a big look at what has gone down since this Venus retrograde. And this is, I mean, we're still on fucking Monday, dude. Monday kind of just starts. Monday's really one of the big days. I think it's actually, Jesus, I think it's one of the biggest days. I can't believe it's July 25th. There's still fireworks. Anyway, and yeah, Mercury squaring Mars, Moon in Scorpio, opposite Uranus. Oh, that's the other thing. I was like, I knew there was something else I'm missing. Neptune is sextiling Jupiter, which we're on round 2 of the Neptune's Jupiter sextile. And of course, this is a longer term transit that we're not really going to see the full picture of probably until we're all done with this situation, done with everything. It'll be easier to reflect on than to like see in the moment. But I do think with Jupiter sextiling Neptune, there is some, magic in the air with Jupiter and Capricorn. What can we, fashion? What can we figure out and kind of, configure ourselves to make work, right? Like Jupiter and Capricorn requires an immense amount of creativity regarding things like, faith, optimism. And with it sextiling Neptune, there's a creative twist that we could put on things. There's a hopeful twist, I think, that we could put on things. And this doesn't, I don't really see this being too much of like Neptune and Pisces of like, oh, it's just super confusing. Don't get caught up in the mysticism. Oh my God, it's not even like super dark out yet. I can't believe they're blowing off fireworks. But anyway, Jupiter sextiling Neptune. There's some magic to the air. Figure something out. Be creative with where you're placing your faith, your spirituality. But with Venus also squaring Neptune too, do something maybe new. Don't just do things the old way. Don't go under the thing that you were guised under. Do the new thing you're guised under. You're confused by, or the new thing that you're distracted by. Anyway, we need to get to fucking Tuesday already, because Tuesday, Moon sextile Saturn. Whoop-de-doo. Not a whole lot's going on. We move over. Moon, late degrees of Scorpio. It is going to be making a trine to Neptune, and I actually haven't really been talking about that at all. With the Moon shining Neptune, I mean, each time it goes into Scorpio or like Cancer, the only thing I think about it is just like it's super easy to just get really wrapped up in nostalgia and like the feeling of the nostalgia. And like with the Moon in Scorpio, again, it's like it's like the hoarder shit. It's like, oh, this one thing I have one memory with is just so precious for some reason, and I have to hold on to it. And Neptune is just like, oh, this memory is so vivid, it's so great, you have to remember it forever, it was so meaningful and significant. It's just easy to get wrapped up in the feelings. Moon is sextiling Saturn here on Tuesday as well. And with the Moon in Scorpio, there is some emotional volatility. There is some, I don't want to say repressed or regressed. What's the word I'm looking for? Like reclusive emotions. Like they're a little bit easier to like store inside than really to push out everywhere. And with the Moon sextiling Saturn, you usually get like the Moon's drive in Scorpio, like its emotional ambitiousness, helped, like, there's a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Help, support with Saturn and Capricorn. How is this kind of clearing our, how is this defining our goals, defining our standards, defining our system of how we operate? I think the Moon in sextile Saturn on Tuesday is just a really good time to like ask yourself, not only what is real and what isn't real, but I would say, with the emotional intensity of the Moon in Scorpio, ask yourself, is this going to work for my new system? Is this something that I need to get rid of? Because again, when we look at all of this screams we're taking out the trash. Like the hoarder people are here. They're moving everything out of the house, whether you like it or not. You have to just decide, though, that you want to get rid of this stuff. And I think the Moon sextiling Saturn is that feeling of like, yeah, maybe it's time to get rid of this, or maybe I should hold on to this. And it's just time to ask, do you get rid of, do you hold on to, Anyway, as we move on into Wednesday, the Moon then goes into Sagittarius and makes a trine to the Sun. I usually don't talk about the luminaries, aspecting each other, but with how Wednesday looks, because if I move this over, we have the Moon moving into Sag. Yes, it's trining the Sun. We also have Mars in Aries at this point. Mars is getting closer to this Mercury Jupiter shit that we've got coming up. This is just, now that we've got something in Leo, something in Sag, something in Aries. It's been a while since we've had like a lot of that fire energy going on, so I feel like there's going to be a lot of fire energy going on this day, and it's going to, like, I guess the reason I wanted to kind of bring this up is, like, you know, it's kind of like when you've gone through winter and then, like, the first day of summer comes, you're like, God, it's fucking hot. This is what, like, Wednesday is going to be like. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot they can get hot too. As the moon goes into Sagittarius, where, like, this is kind of like looking for escapism, you know, trying to be super idealistic with our emotions, can be very avoidant with how we feel, but at the same time, we're also very dreamy, we're very faithful. We're able to kind of emotionally invest into a vision, into a plan, or into, I don't want to say actually a plan, but just more of an idea. It's easy to get excited about it. And with the sun in Leo, like, we're going like, hey, this is like, I can do that. Like, fucking, why can't I? Why wouldn't I be able to do that? Like, I'll fucking do it, and I'll do it this way and that way. Like, there's a lot of cockiness going on Wednesday. So, I don't think that's bad at all. I think that's good. I think a lot of us can use some cockiness. I feel like it's been a very challenging year. We could use a little, you know, pep talk, and I think Wednesday's a great opportunity for that. And what the fuck else was going on Wednesday? Was that it? The moon goes into Sagittarius, makes that nice trine to the sun. Mars is in Aries also, so just a heavy fire energy. The one thing though is, and this is what's going on the next day, is the Mercury-Jupiter opposition, which is kind of, it'll be building up on Wednesday, but it peaks on Thursday, which is where we really need to start talking about it. So we go into Thursday. Mercury makes an opposition to Jupiter while it's trining Neptune. So let's break that down. Let's break that one down first. Mercury, see, opposite Jupiter, making a trine to Neptune. This one is kind of funky. It's kind of weird. Because when we talk about Mercury in Cancer, you know, it's easy to get verbally defensive. It's easily to kind of, you know, I like Mercury in, you know, Cancer. It's like the crab claws, like, you know, it just takes a little tiny pinch to kind of piss you off. And as Mercury's opposite Jupiter, there is this kind of showdown. There is this kind of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, sit down with Jupiter and Capricorn. And Mercury and Cancer's like, hey, I know you're having fun, Jupiter, even though Jupiter's not having fun. I know you're at, like, I would say more of Jupiter and Capricorn is literally just trying to hold it together. Jupiter and Capricorn is doing as best as it fucking can right now. And Mercury in Cancer is kind of going up to Jupiter saying, hey, I know you're doing the best that you can, but I need you to do more of the things I need you to do and less of the things you want to do. Like, I feel like Jupiter and Capricorn it's kind of like when you have, I'm sure you guys have seen this in the workplace, but when you have either a coworker or an employee doing a job and they're focusing more on one aspect of the job than the important aspect you want them to focus on. And Mercury and Cancer coming up to Jupiter is kind of like, I need you to, like, not focus on that thing and focus on this thing instead with the work that you're doing or the job that you're doing. And Mercury, we are talking about communication, our ideas, how we verbalize ourselves. Making that opposition to Jupiter, there is like the seriousness of like, hey, let's also be realistic here. Hey, I need, like, this is kind of like bringing up the elephant in the room, but being realistic about it. Like Jupiter and Capricorn, it's like, hey, you know, like there's just no, I don't want to say there's beating, like it's not really beating around the bush, but just a lot of conversation that needs to be said. It's Jupiter and Capricorn stuff though. It's kind of like having a very real talk where someone could be a little bit more optimistic or can be, how do I actually want to explain this? I feel like I'm not getting the idea I want to you guys, but I feel like you guys also understand what I'm talking about because you guys understand me pretty well. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is Jupiter and Capricorn is just trying to do the best it can. Mercury and Cancer making the opposition is like, hey, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing, but let's be a little bit more realistic here with what you can do. Like Jupiter and Capricorn, you can't just hope for things that you can do. You have to be able to prove what you can do. Like, sure, if you are a Gen Z person like me, you basically I don't know shit about computers, but because I'm, on YouTube and everything, I've had to learn how to do all of this computer editing and all of this shit, right? Like I can sit here and say like, oh, I could learn, Microsoft, like I'm actually learning Microsoft Excel. It's like I can learn Excel, right? But I know, a certain thing better. Like instead of trying to just expand on the things that you could probably wing and figure out, like focus on the stuff that you do know how to do. And the other thing too with this is Mercury is trining Neptune. So this is where I get kind of personally confused, because see, we have Jupiter sextiling Neptune, Mercury's making this opposition but making this trine to Neptune, where I feel like Mercury making the trine to Neptune is like Mercury is getting too idealistic here. Like it can't be this perfect world where everyone communicates exactly how they feel because they know how they feel, because our feelings trick us a lot of the time. Our feelings are usually, like, I don't want to say wrong, they're valid, but they usually get us into trouble, and they're not usually are very well thought out. And as Mercury's opposite Jupiter, it's like I feel like Jupiter and Capricorn's also being like kind of realistic here of like, hey, this is like reality, and Mercury and Cancer's like, yeah, but we need to be nicer, and that we need to be more, enclosed together. And Mercury trining Neptune might just make things, it might just be easier to be more idealistic, more, rose-colored glasses on the world. Not like that's a thing right now, but what I'm trying to say here is I feel like there's going to be this crossroads between thinking things can be easier said than done. That's actually a great way to put it. It might be easier to, logically speaking, rationally speaking, it might work. But once theoretically, it may not work, if that's kind of the way I'd like to put it. I don't know if that would work. I've been talking about this for a minute. I need to keep moving on. Anyway, we're only on fucking Thursday. Also on Thursday, Moon's going to make a trine to Mars, then also make an opposition to Venus, and then square Neptune, this is where I feel like the kicker is, because like the Mercury thing's all day long, right? But the Moon's going to be first making a trine to Mars, which, okay, that's cool, right? That's getting us like, that's the pep talk we need. Like the Moon and Sag is like, yeah, we can fucking do it. Like fuck everyone else. We could totally do this. Like I'm totally feeling this vibe. Like this is, I feel like this chart is very Hot Rod energy. If you've ever watched Hot Rod, like everything about this day is very Hot Rod energy. If you have a pool that you want to jump with your scooter, this would be a great day. But with the Moon first making a trine to Mars, there's this excitement, there's this, emotional whoosh, this whirlwind of being like, you know what, I've got to take, rubber meets the road. I feel this way. I've got to act this way now. The Moon making an opposition, though, then to Venus is kind of like, okay, is this what I wanted? Is this actually making me feel good? Which, by the way, I didn't even talk about this. I just realized this. Venus actually leaves shadow on the 28th, too. Would you look at that? I just now thought of that. I can't believe I totally skipped that. I was like, something else is going on here. Tuesday, Venus finally leaves shadow. Holy fucking shit. Wow, would you look at that? That's crazy. I can't believe Venus is just now leaving shadow. Wow. Well, so once we get to Thursday and the Moon makes that opposition to Venus, who's now out of shadow, right? Venus has already has figured it out as best she can. It's kind of like, like when the teacher says, turn in your test, turn in whatever the fuck you got, even if it's not finished. Like, even if you did what you did with this Venus retrograde, that's what you got. And I feel like with the Moon making opposition to Venus, this is kind of reflecting on like, all right, what did we learn? What did we experience? How did we feel about that situation? Did we get what we want? Are we satisfying our needs more? Are we having a better enjoyment of our experience? And I know don't take that question too literally, but on a personal level, on a specific thing in your life, is it more enjoyable? The Moon in Sag is just kind of having a reflection talk with Venus and Gemini here on freaking Thursday. Anyway, we get into August. Oh, no, we don't. Not August. We're still in July. July 31st, Moon moves into Capricorn, and that's basically it, because Moon will go over the South Node first, which I haven't really been talking about. With the Moon going over the South Node, there is a drain, there is a release, there is a this is in the past. This is a prerequisite is a good way to look at it. With the moon going over the south node, what ideas need to get relinquished? What ideas and thoughts and beliefs, what sad shit needs to just go down the drain? What needs to change? Then the moon moves into Capricorn, where it's all about business, man. Shit's a little bit serious. We're avoiding our feelings. We're detached from our emotions. We can just be and work and not feel. And that's kind of like the only thing that really goes on Friday. The moon will eventually be doing stuff, but that's really it. Let's switch over to the next day, Friday, Saturday. I was like, what's the next day? Saturday. Then a few things go on. Then we get into August 1st. First, we're going to have Mercury opposite Pluto. I don't want to talk about that too much just because it's the same fucking thing as Mercury opposite Jupiter, Mercury opposite Saturn. I just think Mercury opposite Pluto on Saturday is just going to feel like really scary. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like if you've ever been a Christian before and you think about like how they're like evangelical Christians, they're so big on the end of the world and the end times. They're like, he's coming, get prepared. You see the microchips they're putting in everyone. They think that's a big thing. Mercury opposite Pluto is like, oh my God, like it's here. They're doing it. Just don't get too scared. I think the Mercury opposite Pluto, it's also with Mercury in Cancer, if you're terrified of these type of things, right? Because this is a thing that's kind of going on right now. Like a lot of people think it's the apocalypse going on and shit. How do you handle fear? What do you tell yourself when you're afraid? What do you tell others when you're afraid? Do you just tell them what they need to hear, or do you tell them what you want to hear? Because that's Mercury in Cancer, right? Like, are you saying like, hey, like there's people that go, oh, there's nothing to be afraid about. Everything's fine. But then there's also the sense like this is also a great opportunity to say like, hey, no, this is real. But ask yourself, how are you reacting to this fear? What mindset is your brain going under? And this isn't to say that you're right or wrong. This is simply just to reflect on and ask, is there a better way to do this? Are you doing this the best way you can? Because when you start operating out of fear and you start getting insecure, you get into a primal mode that isn't good. You don't want to be in fear mode and being afraid of everything and then being Mercury in Cancer. Like, well, I got to just protect myself. And if I just live in this little bubble, right, I'll be safe. It's more important, I think, to just ask yourself, what are you afraid of? How are you facing that fear? And what are you telling yourself? What do you need to tell yourself? What do you need to do with your thought patterns, with your behavioral patterns along the lines with fear? Mercury in Cancer opposite Pluto. That's what you guys need to be doing. Then also, Moon is going to be making a conjunction to Jupiter, but not before it squares Mars first, which I don't know if you guys saw that here too. You're like, what's that big red line doing? This is God, just everything. Like, I'm so not looking forward to Mars squaring everything. This is where you'll definitely start to see it too, because also next week we'll start seeing the Mars square Jupiter stuff and everything else. But with the moon making that square to Mars, it's kind of like, I have to do this thing, but my energy levels are either not helping me do it, or like, it's kind of like the moon in Capricorn's like, things need to be a certain way, and Mars in Aries is like, no, like, fuck you, like, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. And the moon in Capricorn is like, you can't run around in a library, you can't be loud in a library. And Mars in Aries is like, I will burn the library down if I feel like it, do not tell me what to do. So there is some frustration, some tension here, like, wanting things to be this way, but they're ending up being this way. But I think after the moon makes that square to Mars and then it conjoins Jupiter, this is where Jupiter and Capricorn goes, okay, we need to be creative about a plan on how to handle this. Mars is literally going to come up to square Jupiter right after the moon squares it too. So like Jupiter's this is the moon kind of delivering the message to Jupiter of like, hey, this Mars guy is kind of an ass. Get prepared because he's coming after you next. And so I think this is also kind of the time to go like, hey, what is the plan with the Mars retrograde? How is this affecting us? And it's Jupiter and Capricorn. It's time to fashion up a plan, figure something out, and it's not supposed to be the best. It's not supposed to be, amazing. It's just supposed to work. What's going to get you to point A to point B type shit. God, we're still on fucking Saturday. Also on Saturday, Sun squares Uranus. One thing I just wanted to really say one thing out of this. You know, it's really easy, like fixed signs like Leo and Aquarius and Taurus and Scorpio. A lot of controller energy. Like, you ever dealt with I don't want to say you ever dealt with a controller. We all are controllers, right? Like for example, with me, like something I'm super anal about and I have to control my life. Like, if I'm going somewhere with a group of people, I have to drive. I don't trust people at all with a car. I only trust myself. And so even if it's like a big group of people, I will offer to drive. I'm just like, hey, I'll drive. I'll take care of it. I'm good at driving. I know the roads. I know northeast, south, and west, and I don't need a map. Like, I'll figure it out. Like, I'm a controller about driving, right? Certain people are a controller about other things in their life, right? Like, and the reason I'm bringing this up is with Sun squaring Uranus, it's going to feel like control is relinquished, or that you don't always have control over everything. And sometimes you do have to go with the flow of what others want and others will. Not necessarily, I just feel like this isn't, and of course this isn't anything new. We've all gone through this as humans, but I just think with the Sun and Leo, with Uranus and Taurus, it's like Sun and Leo, like, we want things to be our way, right? Like, it's our way or the highway, but Uranus and Taurus is like, it's either our way or the highway, but with Uranus and Taurus, the road that we're taking is broken, and we need to figure out a new route. And sometimes the route that you had planned isn't the route that's going to work or the route that's going to get you there. Uranus and Taurus asks you to be on your feet, be able to be light to move. You don't want to have a bunch of shit in your possession that you have to move every single time that you've got to go somewhere, right? Like, you want to be light, you want to pack light, be on your feet. And I just feel like with the Sun squaring Uranus, there's this, tension of like, things not really going our way, needing to be able to adjust quickly, but also needing to be okay with doing things not our way and relinquishing that control. That's really the one thing I want to say. It's just easy to be in a controller mindset with fixed sign stuff. You don't have to be in control of everything, and sometimes you just gotta let go and let God. I fucking hate that saying, but sometimes you just gotta let him do his thing or her thing or whatever. Anyway, we get to Sunday. Moon. Let me just talk about Sunday. Moon goes into Aquarius. It'll first conjoin Saturn, and then it will conjoin. Then it'll conjoin Aquarius. It will conjoin Saturn, then enter Aquarius. This is just the Moon conjoining Saturn. Time to be serious, time to be real, time to be raw as fuck. And then it goes, and that's Sunday, right? Like, I feel like this is a good day to dedicate some shit. Just be really real before you get started with the week. And then the moon goes into Aquarius, where we start the full moon in Aquarius coming up, which also the full moon in Aquarius is having Mars square Jupiter. Mercury is going to opposite Saturn on the full moon in Aquarius. Like, this full moon in Aquarius is it. It is it. It is where it all begins, in my opinion. It's really going to just kind of set the bar and kind of really start the cycle of events, in my opinion. Next week, we have so much other shit, too. Mars square Jupiter, full moon in Aquarius, Mercury opposite Saturn, Mercury moves into Leo, and Venus conjoins the North Node and then moves into Cancer. Next week, you see, kind of a lot more action, a lot more aliveness. This week is... I don't want to say it's not action-oriented. I would say this week is definitely just more of context fillers. More context. Next week is the action that happens, if we're going to kind of elaborate astrology like it's a movie. This is more context. Next week is the action. But this week's context is like finally we get to, have you ever watched a movie and you're like fucking like 2 hours into it, you're like, who the fuck is this person? Or why is this here? Like, just still this is like the week where like a lot of answers come into play. Now you get to go like, okay, now I see how it's going to be. Not all of the answers are going to be filled. You don't know the end of the movie in the middle of the movie. You only know the end of the movie by the end of the movie. But a lot of things I think are going to get filled. And I also think this week's just going to be rough, to be honest. Like, real, not fun. Next week's full moon honestly looks shitty. Next week's full moon, though, also looks like where I don't know. I don't even know how to explain these next 2 weeks because also we're just living in very unprecedented times. So, what do I have to say about the situation? What good is what good is anything that I guess I say? But yeah, this week, next week, crazy shit going on. I think that's all I got for you guys this week. No announcements, no nothing. Love you guys. Thank you for allowing me to do horoscopes and do astrology for a living. It's really awesome, and I'm super glad I have 20,000 of you guys that said, "Hey, I should subscribe to this guy." And I also hope you guys are doing really well through this really shitty situation. I'm still taking readings. If you guys would like to book a reading, make sure you check out the link below. As well, if you guys want to donate to my PayPal, helps me, fucking feed myself and keep this and be able to do this. And I do have more videos eventually coming out. Just God, this past year has been really hard mentally for me. Just with everything that I went through personally, and then having to deal with all that on top of the pandemic stuff. But I feel a little bit better now. I told myself after I got out of my 12th house perfection and go into my first house here, I'll start doing more stuff. So I expect more content from me. I know I've been saying that a lot, but I'm also finally not going through a ton of personal shit in my life. I got nothing going on in my life, which is really nice for once. Usually I got 10,000 things going on. So more content coming soon. And that's about it. So I'm just going to leave you guys off with that. So again, thank you guys for being here, liking. Make sure you like it. It really does actually help me out. If you want to share it, that's great too. Comment, let me know how you. Honestly, yeah, I've been meaning to make more calls to action. I want you guys to comment and let me know. Well, for one, actually, tell me what you're going through with this Mars retrograde or Mars in shadow, and what you think this Mars retrograde is going to be like for you, especially if you have Aries ruling your 4th house or your IC. I want to know if any of you guys are moving or planning to move. I'd like to keep my tabs on you guys. With that being said, comment below. Let me know what the fuck's going on for you guys, and that's it. I will be seeing you guys next week.